G'day YouTube, welcome back to the channel. Today we'll be digging out this little red beast. This is the ED Civic, which was the Carby to D16 conversion. Hasport has finally come through and we do have engine mounts arrived. Nice shiny billet ones. Fingers crossed they are the correct ones we need. This is a bit of a unique swap. Not a lot of people do D-series swaps into cars. They usually swap out the D-series and put something bigger and badder in, but this is a massive upgrade from the 1.5 dual carb that we had. We're going injected 1.6, big block, and we're going VTEC. So stick around, I'll show you where we get to. Been waiting a long time for this. Welcome back to the channel, everyone. Yes, we're still doing Honda things, still mainly focused around the Hondas, and I'm still waiting to get some more money to get my K-swap finished. Like I've mentioned a few times, it's all time, it's all money, and I'm about $4,000 or $5,000 away from finishing my K-swap, or at least getting it running. And one of the things that's been hanging around in the back of the shed, this was meant to be a 2 or a 3 week job. It's turned into a 9-month ordeal. And the reason for that is just before Christmas time, Diego, the owner of this car, ordered some engine mounts from the local Hasport distributor, Elusive Racing. Now they've placed an order, they place heaps of big orders all the time with them, and it took quite a while for them to get the order all together to send over to Australia, and shipping's expensive, so sea freight, all that sort of stuff. There was many delays, but we finally got there in the end. Here are the engine mounts. Now I've already unboxed everything, checked it all out. Hasport are the OGs, and they are also, in my opinion, the best billet engine mounts you can possibly get on the market. Now we have everything we need, hopefully, to get this installed into the car. It even comes with a cable adapter to switch the car from cable to hydraulic. Now, if you remember back to Christmas time, I've already done that. I actually set that up already in the car, and I'll give you a quick look at that now. So inside the interior, everything is OE and factory looking. Let's just go up here and flip that around. Hopefully you can see what I've done. I've made a bracket, which was all custom, and I've mounted the clutch master cylinder on the back of there, and I flipped it around. So I think that's going to be a much better way of doing things. It is a little bit more tricky. You do need some fabrication skills and some welding skills. I actually had to go back and watch all of my old videos on this and look at some really handsome fella teaching people how to do engine swaps on YouTube by the name of Turbo Tristan, because it's been so long I've forgotten. Because it's been so long, I forgot what I actually did on this car, because it's been tucked away in the shed for, well, 7 months now. But here's where we left off. Nice clean mint engine bay, ready to accept the motor. I've already gone ahead and put the wiring loom in from the D16 Y8, and we've already fitted the max peating rods coilovers. I've already got the reservoir in there. So we've got the clutch slave and master line here that's going to go into the slave cylinder on the gearbox. I've got power steering lines hooked up. I just need to, once everything's in, I'll measure the length and modify that so that that'll all join up and we can use the factory power steering. I've put an EK sedan brake booster and brake master. This is a 7/8 brake master. This is the optimal one to use, not the 1 inch. And we've put an EK clutch reservoir there and made a custom bracket. So I've done all of that, painted that black so it looks factory. I still need to mount in here somewhere, and there's a couple of bits and pieces here I can use to make brackets off. The fuse box, I'm not sure if I have to get rid of this one or not because wiring is not my specialty. And also we've got some fuel lines to do. Now, if you remember, I've already hardlined the whole car. Being that this was previously carbied, there was just a couple of really small puny lines that came out of the firewall here. We've done away with those. They're all gone. We've got some EFI alloy hard lines from Raceworks. So they're in there. We've got Raceworks fittings throughout the whole car. And now it's just a matter of putting it in. There was also a pretty cool situation with the fuel tank, which I'll get to once I'm sticking that in. I'll show you that later on. First things first, I'm going to drag the motor out, put the mounts on, and then get it situated under the car so I can lower the car down over the engine. And then, yeah, we'll just tackle this as I go. Even though I had 6 months to prepare for this day, I honestly thought the day would never come. Now, I've got a fantastic hookup through Hondy Boy down in the comments. He reached out to me through the comments, through the power of YouTube, and hooked me up. I managed to get my engine mounts flown over. I paid for all the shipping and the engine mounts and everything and got them sent over to me so I could fit my engine. We'd already placed the order for these ones, so we just had to wait patiently. So thanks again to Hondy Boy. Thanks again to Elusive Racing. We finally got the Hassport engine mounts. So let's get those on the engine and ready to put in the car. As expected, of course, the Hassport mounts went on like a dream. Now I've got the top mount here on the gearbox. There is one for the side and one for the back. Now those ones I've already fitted. So we've got the rear mount just here and then the side engine mount just there. Now the reason why you need these and you can't just get any junkyard wrecker ones is because it never came out with this engine. So there's no junkyard wrecker ones that will fit. My big mistake was I thought I could do that, and I went to the junkyard, got a whole bunch of D-series mounts from EGs, EKs. I thought I'd do a bit of a mix and match between Carby and EFI, but yeah, it didn't really work out too well. So that's why we had to wait the 6 months for the engine mounts. The next thing for me to do is to slide this underneath there, take the wheels off, and then lower the engine down gently over the block and wiggle it into position so that I can put a few nuts and bolts on and get this guy in there. So really, really excited for that. Then we can start buttoning it up. It's been a long time coming. All right, so after a full day of working out in the shed, we've got the engine in. Now I've buttoned up as much as humanly possible, and I didn't stop for many breaks because this car has been waiting in the wings for over 6 months, probably closer to 8 or 9 when I do the numbers. But we've got the engine in, headers are on, radiator's in, it's full of coolant. It'll obviously need to be bled once the motor's run. We've filled it up with engine oil, plumbed up the fuel lines to the fuel rail. All the loom has been plugged in as best as I can get it. The hydro clutch line is on down there, and that runs into the car through there. We've got to bleed the clutch, bleed the brakes, and I just need to get a couple more fittings from Raceworks, one on the end of this hose down there to the -6 return line, and then the same thing on the other end. And I need to get one hose for the power steering to run from here up and over and into the bottom of the reservoir. Top that up, get all that done, and then we're right to go. Now, ideally, I wouldn't like to have the battery here, but we're just running out of time, money, patience, all that sort of stuff. So for now, that's how it is. We've fitted up a few other goodies, which I'll show you in just a moment. So the very next job to do after putting in the engine was to hook up the transmission. And as you can see here, I've got the linkages in and they're all done up, but I've had to shorten each of the runners and the rods. This one, I had to do it twice, so that's why the weld is a bit blobby, but we clear everything. We've got room. nothing fouls or rubs. And I actually had to cut out 2 pieces, and here's the pieces down here, and they are around about 70 mil long each. Here's the other one. I'll just confirm that they're both the same size. Yep, so 2 pieces around about 70 millimeters. I just took it off where it was straight, so we had a straight run here and a straight run there. I could have done it there, but I also decided that I'd do it up this end, so it wouldn't really make any difference. Hopefully that doesn't affect the shifting linkage, but it's the same distance traveled both ways. So just before they go in there for the final time, I've just popped them down, go over to the toolbox, grab myself some CRC black zinc rust protection, get that off, give it a good shake, and I'll just give it a real quick hit. Man, that covers so quick and easy. Bang that on there. Give this guy the once over. Just all that exposed steel where I was grinding. Now, because this is zinc coating, definitely going to save it from any possible rusting in the future. We'll let that dry for a couple of minutes. It's quick dry, so we'll get that buttoned up on the car, and then it's on to the next thing, which will be drive shafts. So you've seen the engines in now. It's the next day. Just got to do some final buttoning up, which means putting the fuel tank in. Now, if you remember back to the early videos, this is the factory fuel tank from the Carby ED Civic. And all we've done is just block off the original pickup points down here. And there was actually a template here which was the exact size and shape as the factory fuel EFI pump sender unit. So I cut out the 3-inch hole in the center, which is enough room to put the fuel pump and everything through. This one's out of an EK. It fits and goes all the way to the bottom. There's a brand new pump in there. And we've got some E85 fuel safe hose down to a Z200 fuel filter. This is a sort of fuel filter that is used in pretty much all EFI cars in the 90s. Had one in my 200SX. And then we've got the factory wires and everything here from the EK, which I'm going to extend those so we've got a bit of extra run, and I'm probably just going to use this hole here, which is already in the car, and just run them back into the car next to, this is for the fuel level sender, and then we'll get it all buttoned up and put back in the car, and we're one step closer. With those headers on there, now it's going to be an absolute miracle fluke if they actually work with the old exhaust, but I'm going to try it. Hopefully they do. While we're under here, we'll just do a quick recap of some of the mods we've done to this car. So when it came in, it was 100% stock. It had these really nice 15-inch alloy wheels on there. It was riding like a 4-wheel drive. There was about 4 inches gap above the tyre. We've dropped that down about 2 and a bit inches now, and we've still got heaps of room left. But we've done a disc brake conversion. We've added max peating rods, coilovers, hard race rear lower control arms. So we've got really nice discs in the back. Now that's just a modern upgrade because the car had the old stinky drums on there. In the front end, we've got hard race front lower control arms, and we've got some safe brake braided brake lines. Performance mods so far are just a set of 4x2x1 headers. They just look a lot nicer, and while we're going, we may as well replace them. We've done some mods here on the power steering so we can run that with the factory power steering from the EJ. Everything else is still stock standard, and of course running the max peating rods, blue coilovers there in the front. I'm going to get the fuel tank put in now, run those extra wires. Yeah, we'll move on to the next thing, which will be the exhaust. I don't believe it, guys. The exhaust bolts on So the D15 Carby exhaust bolts on exactly to the D16 injected aftermarket headers. That is incredible. I don't know what brand they are, but they're just your typical eBay header. I know that Diego got them from eBay, but everything bolted straight on, which is incredible. Now, of course, my recommendation would be to upgrade this exhaust and chuck a high flow on there. Get rid of this chunky cat. Now, I've ran through all the gears, everything clears, it's not gonna hit there, but you know, just to be safe, maybe move that back and put a smaller high flow one on, a 2 1/4, or you know, if you're really adventurous, a 2.5 inch system with some nice mandrel bends to really wake this little VTEC up. But hey, she fits, and very happy with that. So we're gonna save money there on the conversion. This oil though, I'm just straining out what's left of the old oil that's been sitting in there. It's quite dirty and brown. Hopefully she's all good. There's a bit of something in there. But yeah, we're gonna run it and see. We'll probably run a couple of batches of oil through there before we just leave it for 5,000 K. So I'll probably just run some cheap oil through on startup, give it a good flush, drop some engine oil flush in there, and then put some good oil in. So I've decided to sacrifice some of the shelf oil. I found some cheap brand oil. There's about 2 litres in there. I put it in and I turned the engine around by hand just off the 19mm socket there. So we'll see. It went round quite a few times. Oh, well there you go. It's actually pretty clean now. So I guess that was just some old dirty oil there that been sitting around. It wasn't too black, it was mainly brown, so I guess it was fairly fresh. So I'll just let that all run out and I'll put some fresh oil in there. I'm gonna run with a 1540 again, but just not that brand. I'll run some Newlon or something like that, which I've always used in all my D series and all my turbos. I think it's pretty good value. One thing with oil that I learned is, yeah, you can spend $100 for 5 litres and change it every 5,000 Ks, or you can spend $50 for 5 litres and still change it every 5,000 Ks. It's going to be fine. The only time where I recommend that you use a really, really expensive oil, if you're not going to be keeping up with your services, if you drive the car every single day and it's your daily, put some good oil in that. Very expensive. It's going to last you 10,000, 15,000 kilometers without needing a change. For your race car, if you're changing it every less than 1,000 Ks, or your weekend car, you change it every 6 months and you do 2,000 or 3,000 Ks, then I think as long as you're putting a quality oil in there, it doesn't have to be the most expensive one. That's just what I believe. So yeah, keep good oils in the car, quality brand name oils, but you don't always have to go for the most expensive. And also pick one that's the right weight for the age and engine. There's no point putting a 0.030 oil in a car that's got 350,000 kilometers in it. You're just going to be burning oil. It's too thin. There we go. That's cleaning out the dregs on the bottom, so you can see that coloration through there. We'll just get all that out. I'll still recommend flushing it after about a week's worth of driving, but just for now, this will be great for the first startup. Before I put the car down one final time, I need to perform one more mod, and that mod is from Max Peating Rods, and that is a front traction bar setup. So this is actually a chassis brace that goes from here to here, and then it has a bar that triangulates across to the lower control arms. Now, if you look at this, not a lot of force required, and look how much the wheel hops and jumps. Like, that's one thumb pushing on that, and that's how much it's flopping around. Now that will make the car have axle tramp or axle hop or wheel hop, depending on where you are, what you call it. And that's when you dump it off the lights, drop the clutch, and it hops and skips and the whole thing shakes and dun 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 dun, and all of your coins go everywhere. That's what that is. So we want to stop this action from happening. And the way to do that is with the max peating rods, front subframe brace, and also traction bars. So we're going to stick those on. I've no idea how to set them up after bolting them on, so they will need to go to a professional wheel aligner place to get all the toe and everything sorted out on the car. But we're going to get it in there and stop the wheels from hopping around. Now, because I did get this over around about 9 months ago, I need to find all the bolts and hardware, and then I'm going to need 2 hands to bolt everything up. So I'll put the camera down, come back to you and show you once it's installed. That wasn't so hard. Bar is on there, you can see. Now I've got to put on some plastic trays. Hopefully they all still fit up around there. If not, well, they're going in the bin. But I managed to use all the hardware. It's all up there. Nice brand new bolts. And just reuse some old bolts that I had lying around, which were the right thread and length. They have to be, you know, quite long, about 3 or 4 inches long, just to get up in there. But check this out. So doesn't move, will not move, no matter what you do. So we've solved the problem of possible axle tramp. Now I know this car won't be a massive powerhouse, but it'll be very zippy, fun, quick and reliable. And we definitely don't want any axle tramp happening. So it's solved the problem. If you have an early model Civic, so I think EG and lower, and some EK models and EJ models that only have the single control arm, then you'll definitely need one of these if you plan on doing any high performance driving. Now on EK4s, EKs, EG5s and 6s, and also DC2s and other models, the lower control arm is a 3-piece triangle bar, and it sort of goes backwards like that. So you've got mounts here in the chassis, and then you've got another mount there where this one is, and then your ball joint there, but it's triangulated so they won't move. This is only necessary on those types of cars when you have huge horsepower or you're running some different lower control arms. But they figured out that problem and fixed it later on. So this is definitely in the EDs and EFs, definitely something that you need to do for spirited driving. Even on these early old Civics, this is a Gen 1 Civic, they even had this bar factory. Don't know if you can see that, it's pretty dark. But yeah, it's already in there from factory. And then they took it out for whatever reason. But we're just putting that back in now. But as I've said many, many times before, I am definitely the furthest from a wiring guy. And wiring is the bit that is left. I've plugged everything in, the ECU's mounted, all the looms mounted, all the plugs are done up. I need to get a couple of extra sensors that didn't come with the motor, like the IAT, intake air temp. So I've got to get one of those. And then send this off to an auto elec. Now I've just had one of my good friends, Vel, in. He is a Honda auto elec specialist. So we're probably going to send it out to him with any luck, if he can fit us in, and rewire the whole car. That way it will be just as the factory intended it to, but with the D series. I think you'll agree that looks pretty damn stock. Looks like it was meant to be there, and it probably should have been. But we've successfully taken a 1988 Civic and put 1998 running gear in it, all the way throughout. So the full drivetrain, shift linkages, the fuel system, the brake system, it's all been done and upgraded. So I think you'll agree that it's pretty awesome. And I'm so glad that I got the opportunity to do this. Hopefully in a couple of months, once it's been wired in and everything. So these things take time, they take money, and between myself, the auto elec, and the owner of the car, Diego, we all need to live within our means and budget. If I had 200,000 subscribers or 100,000 subscribers, I'd probably just pay to get it all done for content, but I don't. but one day we'll get there. Make sure everybody likes, shares, and subscribes so that I can keep creating more and more better and better content. I'm trying to learn new things all the time. So thanks very much for watching, subscribing, liking, and commenting. Anyway, that's enough for today. We've jammed in a whole engine conversion into one episode. Unfortunately, I'm sorry that I can't start the car up for you, but once it is running, we'll definitely get it back. For sure, 100%. I know Diego would be keen for that. But don't forget, spool up, bring the boost, and we'll see you in the next video. Cheers.